I prepared for 15 minutes and I'm cutting it to 8, so this is speedy. A few months ago, I volunteered to do the Dead Poet, and so I thought I'll Google, and I Googled Dead Canadian Female Poet, and I discovered Susan Frances Harrison. How many of you have ever heard of Susan Frances Harrison? Yeah. And that's actually what was mentioned in 1916, that one of the Canadian critics said that she's an incredible poet, but hasn't been recognized here. So I hope to bring some recognition to her. She was born in Toronto in 1859 and lived until 1935. She lived in Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa, and a lot of her poetry comes from her life experience. She absolutely fell in love with French-Canadian society. And I'm going to start reading with a poem called Market Day. Dépêche-toi donc, plus vite, Achille. The sun is up, the sky is bright. 'Tis market day at St Basile. So as we wish to make a deal with farmers keen on prices right, dépêche-toi donc, plus vite, Achille. What shall we buy? Some fish, some eel, some cabbage, currants, red and white. Dépêche-toi donc, plus vite, Achille. By boat, by rail, afoot, a wheel. 5 parishes today unite. 'Tis market day at St Basile. Chez Madame Tarte there waits a meal, 12 of the clock with good appetite. Dépêche-toi donc, plus vite, Achille. 'Tis market day at St Basile. A lot of her poetry, not only the rhyme, but the rhythm of it is like a song. And she herself was a musician. She also composed music. One of the things that really draws me to her is she's not shy to reveal what she sees. So in the marketplace, she also sees the cripples. And here is a poem, The Cripples. Yet even here is life full sore. Here mopes the hunchback, young Tremblay. Alas, the cripple's stalls are 4. Surely, he thinks, ere summer's o'er, he'll seek the shrine at Côte-Beaupré. Yes, even here is life full sore. Here knits and weaves her homespun store, Madame's blind daughter, Désirée. Alas, the cripple's stalls are 4. Here withered wise, long past 60, Madame's old mother shakes all day. Yes, even here is life full sore. She still gets worse despite her lore of plant and herb and sap and spray. Alas, the cripple's stalls are 4. The blacksmith's little Polydor will never walk, or so they say. Yes, even here is life full sore. Alas, the cripple's stalls are 4. Although a lot of her life was spent in high society, she had deep, deep respect for the people who worked the land. And this is revealed in her poem, The Lumberjack. And what I really appreciate about her is her lack of snobbery, because what she sees in this lumberjack is a poet. Although he's illiterate, she knows that because he sees the sunrise and knows the land, that at heart he is a poet. The Lumberjack. What color lurks in Lac La Belle as summer comes and summer goes? Young Philemon can easily tell. His home is near at La Chapelle. He cannot read or write, but knows what color lurks in Lac La Belle. Pink in the sunset like a shell, from emerald back to jade it flows. Young Philemon can easily tell. By purplish black of angry swell, the coming storm that hourly grows, what color lurks in Lac La Belle? A lumberjack in whom the spell of poetry has conquered prose. What color lurks in Lac La Belle, young Philemon can easily tell. She was well known for her wit, and it may well have been one of the reasons why a lot of publishers, after her first book of poetry in 1891, refused to publish her. And this might be a clue as to why. This is called at St Hilaire, and for those of you who don't know French, combien des enfants means how many children. At St Hilaire, combien des enfants? Why, 25? Now by the gods and every saint, I wonder the woman is left alive. Who has less than 12? The bigger the hive, the greater the honor, no sign of complaint. Combien des enfants? Why, 25. The men don't care, and the priests contrive. At Mass, the duty of parents to paint. I wonder the women are left alive. Here come Antoine, Joseph, Mac, who drive. The rest, 15. At the sight you faint. Combien des enfants? Why, 25. I wonder the woman is left alive. She had 2 children, a boy and a girl. She also, as I mentioned in terms of revealing what she sees, I think she also alludes to things in society that weren't talked about back then that are just more coming to light now in the past 40 years, like spouse abuse. And here's her poem, Les Chantiers. For know, my girl, there is always the axe, ready at hand in this latitude, and how it stings and bites and hacks. When Alphonse the sturdy trees attacks, so fear, child, to cross him or play the prude. For know, my girl, there is always the axe. See, it shines even now as his hands relax, their grip with the dread desire imbued, and how it stings and bites and hacks, and how it rips and cuts and cracks, perhaps in his brain as the foe is pursued. For know, my girl, there is always the axe. Now, there was a critic in New York, and this is how he described her works in the late 1800s, and it's a quote. She is cosmopolitan in knowledge of human nature and clever in catching the individual characteristics of special places and people. One hardly knows which predominates, the picturesque, the humorous, the imaginative, or the realistic. At that same time, she was also described in the Dominion Illustrated Monthly. They published one of her villanelles. Does anyone know what a villanelle is here? Yeah, okay. And those are villanelles that I've been reading. So they published one of her villanelles, and then they followed the villanelle with this wording, a conversation between 2 gentlemen. The first one says, oh, and Serenus is one of her pen names. Have you seen the last 2 villanelles of Serenus, both pitched in Lower Canada? Don't mention Serenus. She's too knowing. You mean she is too clever by half? And you can see that from some of the poems that I've read. In 1932, Marjorie Wilson says, this gay, polite French form of verse, the villanelle, light as a bird's feather, in Mrs. Harrison's hand is held and turned like a flashing blade. But I'd like to finish with her tribute to Tom Thompson, because it wasn't only villanelles she wrote. To Tom Thompson, you sought to paint your country's savage side, grim, lonely, naked, in hues that should not fade. Red sumac blazed a path for you, a braid of tangled fires reflected in the tide of northern waters beneath whose waves you died. I too have felt the power of some dark shore to draw and lift the spirit hermit-wise. But ours to face the silences, the sweep of that gray wilderness as yet asleep. I'm skipping some of the lines, but I've chosen ones that I feel will flow well enough. And then it is not always winter there, not always autumn. Spring too casts her spell. A rosy carpet spreads on stony stair, the sheen of yellowing willows in the dell, the stir of sap in root and stem and cell, the glories of a northern spring declare. All this you knew, the little hidden things of fur and feather found in you a friend. The muskrat made the slower scamperings. The heron from his high nest deigned to descend, knowing it all and by its soul possessed. Your heart was in the north, and there you rest. And that is Susan Francis Harrison, and the Ottawa Room actually has a copy of that first book of poetry in 1891 called Pine, Rose, and Fleur-de-lis, and it's amazing to hold it. The pages are all yellowed on the edges, and I guess the library at that time was Carnegie Hall. And just to hold that and know that it survived all these years. And I had to leave eventually at one point, but it was hard to leave. And of course, you can't take the book out. But anyway, I invite you to explore her more. She's an amazing poet. Thank you.